Hello friends. Today is going to be a fun day in the kitchen, or at least I'm hoping it's going to be fun. We are processing 15 pounds of apples that we got from a friend's apple tree in their backyard. They're not huge, but we have right here about 15 pounds of apples. So we need to go ahead and get these processed. We are going to be turning these into applesauce and canning them so we have shelf-stable applesauce for snacks, sweet treats, and anything else that comes to mind later on down the road. Also, because Thanksgiving is right around the corner, 'tis the season, and we are in fall, I went and bought 4 pounds of cranberries, and we are going to make a batch of cranberry sauce with whole berries in it. We are also going to make some cranberry jelly. So my family started making cranberry sauce with homemade, whole cranberries a few years ago, and we really enjoy it. However, my husband just loves the nostalgia of the jelly. We don't do that anymore at Thanksgiving, so I figured what better way to surprise him and to treat him by also making a batch of cranberry jelly. So that is the goal today, and if I have time and if I have the energy, we shall see. It is already 2:30. I am going to go ahead and use the whole cranberries that I sieve out. So I'm going to use like a fine mesh sieve to just get the jelly for the cranberry jelly. But the leftovers I may turn in to cranberry orange scones. So stay tuned. I will let you know if we end up making those or not. But first things first, we're going to put these back in the fridge because this is not the labor-intensive task. Processing all of these apples are going to be the most labor-intensive thing, in the sense that we have to peel them and we have to core them. I have an apple peeler that my mom was kind enough to pick up for me at a rummage sale. This is gonna be my first time using it, so we shall see how that turns out, because I've, one, never used one, and two, this doesn't actually attach to my counter well enough, and it's gonna make a mess everywhere, and I really don't wanna deal with the mess. So I am actually going to process the apples by holding this. So come along with me on this really interesting adventure. Let's get cooking. I'm gonna go ahead and fill these apples, fill this canner stock pot with apples. We're gonna get them all rinsed off. We're gonna let them dry, and then we can get to, we're gonna get to peeling, because maybe depending on how many peels and stuff we have, I may attempt apple juice as well. Again, we're gonna see what my capacity today is like. So come along. So this I got from Trader Joe's. This is a vegetable and fruit cleaning solution, and all I'm going to do is add a few tablespoons to this water. All right, friends, so all of the recipes we are canning today are coming out of the Ball Blue Book. This has an applesauce recipe, an apple juice recipe, and a cranberry jelly and cranberry sauce with whole berry recipe as well. So let me fill you in on what this recipe says. So applesauce, it says 7.5 to 10 pounds of apples. I weighed this. This is about 15 pounds of apples, and we'll need, so per the recipe, let me read the recipe for you first. So this recipe says 7.5 to 10.5 pounds of apples, 1 to 1.5 cups of water, and I can add sugar. I'm gonna see if I can get away with not adding sugar. These are sweet apples as it is, so I shouldn't need to add sugar. This recipe doesn't call for any pectin or anything like that. So we washed the apples, we're gonna remove the stems. We're gonna peel if desired. So peeling the apples is an option. It is not required. However, I wanna go ahead and get these peeled. Somebody's car needs some maintenance. That's what you're hearing in the background. So cut apples. And then what we're going to do is we're gonna go ahead and put the apples as they are readily processed. We are gonna add the apples and the water in a large saucepan. This is probably gonna go in our stock pot. I'll start accumulating some apples on our baking sheet here. And then once I have a couple, we'll get them into the saucepan and we'll get them cooking down. And then as we get more apples processed, we will add them to the saucepan as well. So because we have 15 pounds of apples, so let's go off of 10.5 pounds of apples to 1.5 cups of water. We're gonna add about 5 more pounds of apples, about 4.5 pounds. So we may add 2-ish cups of water. We'll start with 1.5 and see if we need to add more. For the applesauce recipe, or not applesauce, apple juice, let me find it. So for apple juice, it says just 12 pounds of apples and a quart of water. We're gonna use the peels and the cores to make this apple juice. So we may not get a whole lot, but I will throw them into a bowl. We will weigh that bowl and see how much there is. And then we will add water and we will let it simmer for a little bit as well. We are gonna go ahead and find out what the weight of this glass bowl is in pounds. Okay. So this bowl is 3 pounds and 1.7 ounces. Okay, there we go. So we will weigh this again once we have it filled with peels and cores. Because I've never done this before, this is gonna be a learning curve. So come along with me as we figure this out. My husband did that. And then we just slide the apple on. We gotta pull this out. This is a bit of like a weird multitasking project. Because I can't, there we go. Oh, here maybe we just pull it out. Okay, and now I think, oh, there it goes. Cool. Oh, okay. Well, interesting. Great. So, one, this did in fact core the apple, which is what we want. So the cores are going to go in here. We've got the peel of the apple, which is also going to go in here. And then peels. And then the rest of this is going into our applesauce. So now we just do this 100 more times. There we go. We set that on. Would this be easier if this was like able to be tied down to something? Absolutely. However, my countertops just don't work that way. Oh, there we go. Okay, well that worked much better. So, there's our peel. There's the apple, and there's the core. Oh, it's gonna be like this the whole time. We got this. We totally got this. Let's see. My issue is if I push this to the counter, like one, my dishwasher's in the way, but if I'm gonna do this, this is probably the best spot to do it. Because then extra juices go into the dishwasher. Wow, this does not stay put very well. I don't know. It was like kind of easier, it kind of wasn't. So now we just do this on repeat, y'all. Yeah, I thought it'd be more stable. This is gonna take a century. Like, it's working, but like, number one, like,
is it supposed to be spiraling cutting it?
Yeah, that's what it does. That's because of this piece right here. It has to go through to core, but because of that, it spiral cuts it. But like,
could you take that piece off?
This just, well, then it doesn't core it. You understand? But also, because this comes flush with the countertop, it like still moves. Like, it's not stable, which is kind of annoying. Because I tried doing it like just holding it by with my hand. That also wasn't super helpful.
What if you put it on that side?
I could. My concern is just like buildup of apple juices, and it like, I don't want to do it over the carpet. Yeah, it like the way that this is designed is really funky. I can put it here.
It on the corner?
Yeah.
What if we did something like this?
Yeah, see, it like, it's not very stable. All right, so Reed came in, helped me get a little bit better of a setup figured out, and we're just gonna do our best with what we've got. I don't know. Oh, fascinating. And we will just try to clean up our mess as we go to keep this from splattering all over our carpet too terribly much. And some of these aren't peeling super great. I'm okay with a little bit of peels inside our applesauce. I just didn't want it all to be peel. All right, so we have some apples here. I'm gonna get this heating on like just a really low heat. I did go ahead and add 2 cups of water to this bowl. And as I get apples peeled, I will go ahead and start adding them to this pot. But this way I can help prevent these from oxidizing too terribly much. So this is just over 2 pounds of cores and peels. So I have 2 cups of water here. We're gonna add these to that. We're gonna get these kind of cooking down. Okay, so here's another 2 cups of water. We're gonna get this on a really low simmer as well. And we're just gonna keep working. We're about halfway through the apples. Here's about another 2 pounds of apple cores and peels. So we now have our little Dutch oven out. We got our big Dutch oven out. We also have our other like just regular pot out for the peels. We're gonna make it work. I really didn't want to use my canner because I'd have to clean it and like the enamel kind of looks like it's coming off, and I'm hesitant to use it to heat things through, especially apples which have acidity. So we're making it work with what we've got. So if you are somebody who doesn't have all of the things, I don't either. But we're gonna figure it out. We also only have about a quarter of the apples left. We're slowly getting there, y'all. All right, that is the last of the apples. And we've got about 5.5 pounds of cores and peels. So to help the cores and the peels, we're gonna put the lid on them because we really want this to steam. We're gonna get these freshly chopped apples mixed on in. Fire now that I've got a little more energy to pay attention. Now let's go reference our recipe again to kind of figure out how long we need to let these simmer. Applesauce. Wash apples, drain, combine water, medium heat until soft, stirring to prevent sticking. Remove from heat puree mixture using an electric food strainer or food mill to remove peels and seeds. Return apple pulp to saucepan, add sugar if desired, stirring until sugar dissolves. Bring applesauce to a boil, stirring to prevent sticking. Maintain temperature at a boil while filling the jars. Ladle hot sauce into hot jars. And then this is going to be water bath canned. So we can choose to leave this chunky or coarse. I think I'm going to use my immersion blender, and then we're going to combine these 2 Dutch ovens together. Let's see what the juice says. So for 12 pounds, 1 quart of water. So I have 1 quart of water with the peels right now. And we ultimately ended up with probably 5.5 to 6 pounds of cores and peels. This says combine apples and water in a large saucepan. Cook until apples are tender, stirring to prevent sticking. Strain apples through a damp jelly bag or several layers of cheesecloth to extract juices. Then we're going to heat the juice for 5 minutes. Do not boil the juice. Ladle hot juice into jars. Okay, so process pint or quart jars for 10 minutes. How long do I have to process the applesauce? Process pint or quart jars for 20 minutes. So now we're gonna let these simmer and cook down, and I'm gonna clean up my apple mess. Okay. So these have simmered down enough that I feel comfortable recombining the two, because they will now all fit in this one Dutch oven. I will try and get all of this out as best I can. Here we go. Fantastic. And then the apple juice, we'll set that there for the moment, is simmering away nicely. I just don't want anything that's on the bottom to scorch, so I'm just gonna go ahead and rotate the stuff that's on the bottom real quick without making a huge mess. Really, I'm making the apple juice to not waste the apples. So every part of the apple is currently being used. We've got the inside being used to make sauce, and the peels and the cores are going to turn into a juice. And so we used all of the apple. It did not go to waste. None of it went to waste. We are really testing the limits of this Dutch oven right here, which is totally great. So, and we got our apple mess cleaned on up, which is fantastic. Recenter that. We'll let that continue to simmer. Okay. And if you notice over here, so I cleaned these jars a little bit ago. We will not be using the quart jar, or like, this is like a 3-cup like jar. I'm not sure what this is called, but it's not a quart, but it's bigger than a pint. So we are going to be using for the applesauce jelly jars and a couple, oh, you didn't get cleaned. Okay, good thing we looked. And a couple of regular pint jars. I think I grabbed all of my jelly jars. I'm gonna run down to the basement and make sure I grabbed them all, because originally I wasn't planning on making cranberry sauce, and now I am. So let me see how many jars we actually need now. All right, friends, so this one smells absolutely amazing. 2, I may have tasted it already. I really don't think it needs any more sugar. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start pureeing this. I've got my hand mixer, or my hand blender, I should say, out. And we're gonna see if we can kind of get this blended on up. And so here we go. I need to plug this in behind you. I did put an apron on because I do not need to be staining this very light shirt. Perfect. Let's get this attachment undone. And we're just gonna give this a taste test. Oh my gosh. Oh, friends, it's so good. These apples are so sweet. They do not need any more sugar. There is just a touch of tartness to this. It's gonna be a beautiful applesauce to eat as a wonderful snack, a dessert when I have a sweets craving. Very much trying to be good. Halloween being 2 days ago, we hardly got any trick-or-treaters. And so now we have all that candy. I don't need it. Little babe doesn't need it. I don't need it. This is going to be a much healthier alternative because all this is apples. All right, so per the recipe, it says, once we puree, bring applesauce to a boil, stirring to prevent sticking. Maintain temperature at a boil while we fill the jars. So I'm going to need to transfer this pot over to here, not into this Dutch oven, this tiny one, but onto this burner so I can get my water bath canner heating on up. Our apple juice is done. So I've put a fine mesh strainer on top of my tiny Dutch oven, and this is how we're going to strain off the core and the peels for the juice. We are gonna let this just kind of strain off. Our applesauce was just at a boil. I have a scoop here. We're just going to go ahead and ladle or pour the applesauce into each one of these jars. We need to fill to about 1/2 inch of a headspace. This is some thick applesauce, which is fantastic. I am definitely overfilling. Not on purpose. These jars are smaller than a 1/2 pint. Just so you know, if you're curious. All right, friends, so we are not pressure canning, but I did get my pressure canner out because I made so much applesauce that I need to double stack the jars. You can, in fact, I just looked it up from the Center of National Food Preservation, I believe is the name of the National Center for Home Food Preservation, and they did say you can process a double stack for water bath canning. So I'm gonna actually put this hot boiling water into the water bath into the pressure canner. We're gonna get that turned on. But now I need to fill this quite a bit with water. So we will start here. That water is still hot. Okay, what we are going to do is very carefully lower these We're gonna lower these tiny jars in first because these pints can sit on top of them. I'm not sure. Because you guys are about the same height. Let's put the pints in first. But this water is hot. Even though I just filled this, this is hot water, so the pints are safe to go in. I'm not feeling very confident. Let's see, how far do you... Oh. Let's see. We won't get it an inch above. Okay, well that's a bit of a bummer. I thought we could do that with my pressure canner. Apparently we can't. It's tall enough to pressure can, but there is not enough space in my pressure canner to be able to get 1 inch of headspace. So we'll just have to process in the water bath canner as well. So let's fill this with water again. So now we're just gonna get this onto boil. Correction, we're not getting it onto boil. It says do not boil this. So we will get it on to simmer. Oh, apparently I turned on the wrong burner. Okay, we'll get it simmering. And I'm estimating we probably don't have more than 3 pints here. I am just double checking that there is at least 1 inch of water on top of the jars using my little debubbler and headspace tool. So I definitely don't want to make this juice too hot. I would also very much like to get this water bath canner heating up. So I've put an even finer mesh sieve on top of my funnel, and that's just gonna catch any bits that made it through the first strainer. Which it looks like there might. There's definitely some bits. And honestly, this stuff could be kept. I'm just going to use a spoon to get the pulp out of the way so we can finish. And quick transfer. And none of this will go to waste. This will be applesauce. Just to help this process flow a little bit better, we'll strain that out. Put that back on top. Oops. We just got a little bit of juice left. Just throw that into there. Fantastic. Go ahead and wipe the rims of these jars so we can get lids on them. And some hot water. And while we're waiting on the actual water bath canner to come up, we're also waiting on the pressure canner to come to a boil. Let's give this applesauce juice a taste test. That's so good. Oh, it's like apple pie. And there's no added sugar in this, friends. That's my favorite part here, is there's no sugar. No added sugar. Apples have sugar naturally, but there's no added sugar, which is fabulous. I always like to double check my recipes, especially where canning is concerned. It's better to be safe than sorry. So we need to process the applesauce for 20 minutes. However, I live at elevation. When you live at elevation, you need to adjust your processing time for both pressure canning and water bath canning, or you have to adjust processing time for water bath canning. For pressure canning, your pressure changes. The pressure you have to process food at changes. So for water bath canning, I need to add an additional 10 minutes. So all the applesauce needs to process for 30 minutes for me specifically, because that's 10 more minutes past 20 minutes. And that's for the applesauce. Let's see what the apple juice says. And the apple juice needs to be processed for 10 minutes, so 20 minutes. What I am going to do, this is not going to hurt the juice to my knowledge, I am actually going to process this apple juice with the rest of this applesauce. And it can all process at the same time, so I don't have to run a third batch, especially for only 2 pints. All right, this water is getting warm. I'm gonna go ahead and throw my smaller pints in here. They're like just under half pints. And then the pints will most definitely be able to fit in here still. We're just waiting on this to finish coming to temperature. Hello, friends. All right, so I saw you last on Sunday, and on Sunday we made apple juice and applesauce. I'm happy to report all of the jars did seal. I've removed the rings. They just need to be labeled, and then they can go downstairs into long-term storage. We are now going to make our cranberry jelly and our cranberry sauce. So right here in this bowl is 2.5 pounds of cranberries. In this pot is 1.5 pounds of cranberries. So the pot is going to be turned into the cranberry jelly, and then this little Dutch oven is going to get the 2.5 pounds of cranberries to be turned into cranberry sauce. So let's reference our recipes. I am using the Ball Blue Book for preserving. And so let's start with the jellied. It says for about 1.5 pounds, I need 1 3/4 cups, 3/4 cup of water, and I need 2 cups of sugar. So to cook, combine cranberries in water in a large saucepan. Boil over medium-high heat until skins burst open. We're gonna puree the mixture using an electric food strainer or food mill to remove the peels and or seeds. Return mixture to large saucepan, add sugar, cook over medium-high heat, stirring until sugar dissolves. Okay, so I don't feel like getting my food mill out. It is not very fun to clean, so that's not what we're gonna do. What we're gonna do, we are gonna add the 1 3/4 cups of water to this. We're gonna bring it to a boil. We are gonna go ahead and get our hand blender, and we are going to blend it on up. And then I'm going to run a like double sieve method. So I'm gonna do a bigger sieve to remove the peels, and then I've got a much smaller one that will hopefully catch the seeds as I go to make jelly. I could also use a cheesecloth. I don't currently have a cheesecloth on hand. Unfortunately, the last cheesecloth I had, I'm not 100% sure what happened to it, but it is no longer in this house. So we will be doing a double fine mesh sieve to strain the jelly. And then for the whole berry cranberry sauce, we're gonna combine sugar and water in a large saucepan. We're gonna bring that mixture to a boil over medium-high heat, stirring until the sugar dissolves. We'll let that boil for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna add our cranberries. Fantastic. So I think with the water and the cranberries, this is not going to be big enough, so let's get a bigger stock pot. There is 4 cups of water here. Now let's get 1 3/4 cup. heating over medium heat. We're also gonna get this heating over like a medium high. And now let's grab our sugar. Friends, I don't have enough sugar. Where is it? To make both of these recipes, I need 6 cups of sugar. This might be 2. I have none in our long-term food storage down in the basement. And I may have enough for the jelly. I don't know. Now I'm hesitant. Okay, so we're gonna turn those off. Let me see if my neighbor has any sugar that I can take from her, and I will reward her in kind. So let's see if we can solve the sugar issue. Otherwise, we may be doing this tomorrow because I'm not running to the store tonight. All right, friends, we are in luck. My neighbor did, in fact, have enough sugar for us, so that is fantastic. So now I just need to measure out 4 cups of sugar into the whole cranberry sauce. Yep. So for the whole cranberries, we need 4 cups of sugar. So let's get this going. Perfect. And then we're going to get this heating and we're going to get the sugar dissolved, and then this needs to come to a boil. This also needs to come up to a boil, I believe. Now that I got to get myself back in the mindset. Yes, boil over medium-high heat until skins burst on the jelly. And on the whole berry, we need the sugar and water to combine. So we need the sugar to dissolve, and then it needs to boil for 5 minutes. So I will see you back here once this is boiling. I gotta go get dinner started. All right, I don't know if you can hear it, but these are popping, which is exactly what we want. We want the skins to burst. So we're gonna let that keep going. This is at a boil, which means all right, and this says to just add the cranberries, not to stir this mixture, and wait for these cranberries to burst. Okay, we're gonna turn this off. Now we're gonna go ahead and use the hand mixer, and we're going to blend this up. So we are going to strain this sauce through this sieve right here. I've got this metal spoon. All I'm going to do is kind of push it through. Probably should have used a much smaller strainer because I don't want any of this going anywhere other than in this bowl. Maybe I should. Friends, I'm trying to do too many things at once. I'm boiling over the other cranberry sauce. So we'll set this aside here for now. Let's see, are these all bursting? It said not to stir, but I need to know if these are bursting or not. I think they are. I also made a mess on my stove. Are you really cooking in the kitchen if you're not making a mess? We'll turn this over lower. I'm just trying to push through as much of the jelly as possible here. This is where if you had a food mill, it would really do a really good job of extracting all the juices. The food mill takes a lot to set up. It makes a huge mess over it's an attachment to my KitchenAid, and so it's a huge mess to clean. And this was such a small product that I wasn't super worried about it. I'm gonna try to scoop off as much jelly as possible. And for the final touch, this is what we're gonna sift the jelly through one more time to see if we can get the seeds out. It's a very fine mesh sieve, so I have high hopes. Oh yeah, it's catching the seeds. Woohoo! This is just going to be a slow process because this is a tiny sieve. The last thing we need to do is add 2 cups of sugar, and we need this to dissolve. And then our cranberry sauce will be done. We do not want this to burn. So we need to keep an eye on it. Okay, so while we're waiting on the jelly to gel on up, it's almost there. It's not too far off. We're gonna go ahead and scoop up our cranberry sauce here. Get this out of the way. We're gonna get these into some jars. This needs to be at a 1/2 inch headspace. It said it'll make about 6 pints. So we'll see what we get. I think our jelly is just about done. I'm going to turn the heat down because I don't want to boil it over. We're going to go ahead and add sauce to this tiny, tiny jelly jar. And Reed and I may enjoy this week. But it's not enough to can. I don't need it taking up valuable space in the canner. Just like that, we have cranberry sauce. I'm gonna see if we can just free pour and try not to dirty another dish. Okay. Here's the timer for our bread that's in the oven. I just need to take the lid off the Dutch oven here in a second. We'll just add the rest of this to this little jar over here. Let's give this a taste. Oh, that's good. I'm so excited for this, friends. Ooh, okay. This lid doesn't want to stay on, so we're not going to use that. Let's try this one. So here in a few minutes, we'll get these jars loaded on up. We'll process for 25 minutes, and I'll show you what everything looks like once it's all finished. Good morning. All of our jars seem to have sealed. They have been out of the canner for just about like 10 hours. So we'll still leave the rings on until I get home from work later tonight, but this is super exciting. They seem to have gelled really, really well. Just super exciting. Yes, even the whole berry sauce like just gelled like absolutely beautifully, and the color is stunning. So I'm super excited that we have applesauce, we have cranberry sauce and cranberry jelly on the pantry shelf. Reed is super excited about the cranberry jelly. I'm just excited to have this on hand for if we decide to do some Thanksgiving things with some friends. We usually spend it with my family because they live nearby, but we do like to spend the weekend following Thanksgiving with some friends, and this is going to be a wonderful convenience because then I don't have to make cranberry sauce. So that's really awesome. So if you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful or informative, let me know down in the comments below if you've made this, if you do something different, what type of variations you do. If you're interested in other canning videos, I can link those here and here for you as well. And stay tuned because we have Thanksgiving desserts, Thanksgiving sides, and some postpartum meal prep for my sister-in-law coming up soon. I'll see you all next time.